Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? Just getting back in the group, Deep Woodward Bet Show. This is Scott here, and I got Detroit Beastie with me. What's going on, my friend?
Hi, great to see you back. You look a little better. Like your face, you filled out a little bit, but you said you lost some weight. So hopefully you lost weight in all the right places. But to me, right
Yeah,
now,
right
you
here.
sound good. You look great. So I think I'm doing well. The question is, how are you doing after a nasty week full of just ickiness, virus, and all that stuff? It stinks.
Yeah, as you see on the board, Scott 1, Rona 0. But a couple days ago, I'd have to say maybe they had the advantage there. But yeah, just a couple days, basically like the flu, had a hard time keeping stuff down. Today's the first day, Chris. I actually got some solid food in my belly. Had a little bit of Jimmy John's, a nice little sub. It tasted pretty good. So hopefully I can get back in the groove and eat and get my belly full back up here. But I just feel a little weak. But other than that, good to go. Excited to talk about all the stuff I missed. I mean, I hate being away. It just drives me absolutely bonkers. But really appreciate you and Chris holding down the fort while I was fighting the Rona here. But back in the groove here, Chris. Feeling a little bit. We're tagging in and out here, trying to do the best we can to keep the show going here this week. But definitely the quarantine bet show, as we've kind of joked a couple times here this week. But so, Chris, I got to ask you. I know you guys. I watched the show yesterday. I think the best bets did pretty well. I know Chris was 2 for 3. I know he had. I saw him on the Braylon and Mads and Ryan with on the bottom line, and his favorite NBA bet was the Denver Nuggets over Portland, which absolutely crushed last night. So that was pretty good. But
Correct.
I did spend my night last night watching your Wings, and they looked a little sluggish last night. Just didn't have too much going offensively. Now, I don't know much about Winnipeg to say if they're a very good defensive team, but I did see two local boys scored the goals for Winnipeg. I think his name was Odd or Todd or something like that. Scored for Winnipeg twice. I think he's from Sterling Heights, and then there was another guy from Royal
Cop.
Oaks. So, yep, there you go. So I mean,
Andrew
that's
Cop.
got to be pretty cool. Can you imagine though,
Yeah,
growing
no
up? I
doubt.
mean, those guys were, when they were young, that's when the Red Wings were in their heyday, like 2002. I mean, for them, they had to be youngsters, and to be able to score at Joe Louis, I think that would be quite the feat for these guys here. But did you watch that game last night, Chris?
I did, and if you watch back yesterday's show, I called it exactly how it happened. I said Winnipeg was going to win this one 3-1. Obviously, the one goal from the Wings didn't happen, but I mentioned Kyle Connor in length. He scored a goal. I believe he had an assist or two. Yeah, listen, Andrew Kopp scored twice. He had the 2 points plus 2 in that one, and I mentioned Kyle Connor by name. While I was going over my favorite stacks, and as we opened the hockey segment with the Wings here, Kyle Connor scored once. He had 1 assist, 2 points, plus 2 here. So not saying I have a crystal ball here, but when it came to this game, it was pretty clear what was going to happen in this one. So again, I didn't know the Wings were going to get shut out, but I did have the Winnipeg Jets scoring 3 times, which they did. And again, you could tell by, the way, the direction these two teams are headed, at least for this season. Winnipeg, they've shown flashes. They're pretty quick, and the sluggish really doesn't apply to them because they're so young. And as it stands right now, their head coach is always moving in these new line combos. If I'm not mistaken, this Andrew Kopp kid, he normally plays on the second power play line. But last night, he got a little taste of the first line with Kyle Connor and a little bit of the first power play unit here. So you got to love a head coach here. Again, at me as a DFS guy, or all of us that kind of comb through everything, I love that these coaches across the board in the NHL kind of keep this stuff, keep it moving. Every day is a different line, and you got to make sure you check the early morning, skate around on the ice here, and that's what it'll tell you. So the Wings will look to regroup over the weekend. They do not play today, but again, two teams going in opposite directions, but in a way, you kind of envy what the Wings are doing, and I've discussed it a lot here during this week, and with Nicholas Lindstrom being brought back in. the next move here would be Sergei Fedorov. If you don't know, I believe Woodward actually shared the photo of Sergei Fedorov. He's a head coach right now over in Russia, and he's got that team just running on all cylinders. I believe they're in a in a playoff spot right now. But again, that's the next right move to do. I know we're talking hockey in the wings here, but the Lions bring Calvin Johnson back. Let's see what we can get going there. And then the next logical step here would be for the Red Wings to bring back Sergei Fedorov, retire the jersey, have him somewhere in the facility here. But I'm going on a tangent, as I often do when we're talking anything Detroit sports here. But it was a tough loss for the Wings. But hey, as we discussed last time we were together, they had just rough sledding on their West Coast trip. I believe they had 2 out of possible 12 points or something like that. So the West Coast trips aren't good to the Wings. They were home, and this is what they give us. So brighter days are ahead for the Wings, and the loss last night, not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Fedorov. For me, I mean, a guy like Fedorov, anybody that was on that Wings team, Chris, I mean, they were coached by arguably the greatest coach ever in hockey, right? I mean, Scotty Bowman. I'm sure damn well they all learned quite a bit working under him. I know, he was pretty tough on some of them. He was demanding, but he was very specific on what he wanted out of his players. So, I mean, with training like that, you can't get much better training than that. It's just like, Tom Brady with Bill Belichick. I mean, I think Tom Brady at some point would be an excellent choice for a coach. So I just think getting that kind of training from a Hall of Fame type coach definitely cannot hurt the cause. But it'd be great to see number 91 back in town. I mean, he's definitely part of that great run we had. I mean, if you think about it, Chris, I mean, that Russian Five. I asked you, have you seen that movie? I need to watch that. I haven't seen that yet. I've heard it's really good. I'm gonna maybe here, since I've been quarantining here the last few days, maybe I'll get to that here today or tomorrow. But yeah, excited for the Wings. I just think that we got a new stadium, we got Lidstrom coming back here, we got some young promising prospects here, and then I know you and I haven't talked, but when I heard Lidstrom say that his focus was going to be on that defense, if I'm Mo, how excited are you when the Mr. Perfect is teaching you everything about what he knows? I mean, that's just got to be an exciting time for a youngster like that.
No doubt. And so far this season, I mean, heck, I've even done it, but across the board here, in other organizations and local news media and not local news media, they're comparing Mo Seider to Nicholas Lindstrom. So that means that kid Mo Seider is exhibiting all these signs or decision-making, placement on the ice, just as Lindstrom used to do. And as you said, they call him Mr. Perfect here. But everything that's going on right now, the coaching staff and even Steve Yzerman himself, who played side by side with Lindstrom during the length of both of their careers here, they're saying that Mo Seider is actually about a year ahead of schedule in comparison to Nicholas Lindstrom at the same age, given the same, time frame here. So you're ahead of Lindstrom, who is arguably one of, if not the greatest, defensive blue line skaters of all time. And now you're going to toss him on the ice or let him work with Lindstrom here. I mean, Mo Seider must be through the roof here. And again, it all boils down to what Steve Yzerman has been doing. He's put these kids in a position to play very well in a conducive situation in Detroit. And we all know, you and I watching or recording this, and anybody that's watching this, we all know the Wings need a little boost here. And our sales are high right now. Everything's going to be good with Lindstrom, Yzerman, Seider, Lucas Raymond. I mean, the list goes on. So I'm excited about the long-term outlook here of the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, me too. But I'll tell you one thing I'm not excited about, Chris, is this stinking cold weather. Damn, man, it's cold outside. But, man, that's going to affect some of these NFL games this weekend. Some crazy weather we have. I mean, it's just been so cold out. It's going to be interesting to see some of these NFL games, which we will get to. We're going to have a special guest today on the show. We're going to have Russell Brown come in. He is an NFL draft expert. He'll be in here shortly in about 15, 20 minutes or so to join us to talk some NFL. We'll talk a little bit of the Senior Bowl, since the Lions are going to be coaching the Senior Bowl, which, in the past, I mean, that's a good way to find some gems, Chris. Maybe we have an opportunity here to maybe pull out some other 4th or 5th or maybe 6th round picks, as I know that I heard you talking about the other day. That's how you build through the draft. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky you get a top couple pick, a guy falls in your lap, sure, anybody can do that. But it's pulling them guys out in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th round, the Amon-Ra St. Browns, the guys like that helps you build your NFL team quick. So kind of looking forward to talking to him and see what some of his thoughts are, and see what he thinks about the Lions and some of the playoff action this week. But one other thing, though, Chris, we have tonight, which I thought was interesting, is University of Michigan is going to get back on the court tonight with some basketball. They got a 9 p.m. game out there in Illinois. Looks like Michigan is getting 9.5 here, Chris. I mean, that just seems like quite a bit of points here. I know Michigan is going to be without a couple of guys here, from what I understand, out with COVID here. But, I mean, number 25 Illini, I mean, they're off to their best start here since 2005. They got 3 upperclassmen that basically are logging most of the minutes for them. For me, I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this one here, Chris? I just think the way Michigan's been, with their injuries, with all their COVID issues here, I think they got a tough sledding here. But, man, it just seems like too many points. Almost 10 points here. I just think that's a little bit too high. But what are you thinking about this kind of worn down Michigan team here with all these COVID issues going into Illinois?
Yeah, it's tough to just an overall outlook. It's tough for any college football team or college basketball team to have some sort of prolonged success, because those seasons where you're very high, that means you have some stud talent who ultimately they move on to the next facet of their life, whether it be NBA or, graduating, being a doctor. I don't know, whatever the heck these kids are doing here. But Michigan, as it stands right now, the season hasn't been the greatest. They're kind of down at the moment. They're in a lull here. And then you throw in all this COVID stuff and boom, here we are. I remember a few days ago with Beer and we were talking about Michigan playing Michigan State, and Michigan State, I believe, was giving 11 and a half points or something along those lines. And we went through this whole thing and the game didn't even wind up being played. And in a way, when we're sitting here and we're broadcasting and we're sharing our opinion, not saying it's exhausting, but then the game never gets played because of COVID stuff. So in a way, having never had COVID, right, it's, all this stuff affects everybody, not only the kids on the court, the fans, the coaches, the families of these kids. And when you look at Michigan, playing Illinois tonight, giving them 9 points, you would, most Michigan fans, a casual Michigan basketball fan would go, oh no, we're going to blow them out. Like every game for Michigan basketball is, we have that air about us with being a Michigan Wolverine where we're better than everybody. But I'm telling you right now here, this one's not going to be good. Illinois is giving us 9 points, and I think Michigan is going to need every single one of those because of all the lulls. And again, if you're canceling games, right, the last week they haven't played, they cancel. Look at the graphic. They didn't play against State, they didn't play against Purdue, so I'm sure as crap they haven't been practicing, they haven't been in the gym running plays or learning from on field or on the hardwood tactic here. So to me, Illinois is coming in and they're just going to, Michigan that is just going to run in an absolute buzzsaw here. So I would probably take Illinois minus the 9 points in this one. And again, these just to be a regular, normal, everyday guy. Everything isn't always sunshine and rainbows with the Michigan athletic program. And right now, we're looking at a downspout right here. So give me Illinois plus the 9 points.
Well, I think I'm going to agree with you on that, because I'm just sitting here looking at this game log for Michigan, and against the spread, their last 6 losses against the spread margin, minus 11.5, minus 17, minus 23.5, minus 23.5, minus 10.5, minus 21.5. Obviously, you can see there, Chris, they've been getting absolutely blown out here, which is not too good. But yeah, I'll be interested to see. I'm going to be watching that game tonight for sure. I do agree with you. I'm just not going to bet on it. But if I had to, I think you're right. I think I would be going with Illinois tonight as well. But glad to see him getting back on the hardwood. And then one other thing real quick, Chris, I know you're a big hockey fan, but it was kind of nice to see some of these U of M players making the U.S. Olympic team. I saw that they had a couple guys here that made the Olympic team, which is, to me, man, I think the coolest thing in all of sports would be to standing on a podium when they are singing the United States national anthem as you are holding your gold medal. I think that would be the ultimate pinnacle in all of sport. So for me, I mean, kudos to these guys. I wish them well. I like watching that U of M hockey team, Chris. You never have a chance. If you ever had a chance to go down to Yost Arena, that's a lot of fun. Good time. You can go out to dinner. Nice, go to Ann Arbor. You walk to Yost. You can go to a few bars. It's a lot of fun. It's quite the atmosphere, especially when that band is in that arena. Have you ever been down there for a game?
I have, absolutely. When I was a boy and even a teenager, my dad and I used to go down there all the time. And I have, they said I got one of Ford Field and Joe Louis, one of those little like replicas, but it's like very detailed. You can take the top off and all the banners are in. I mean, it's very small and detailed, so to scale. But yeah, Yost is special. They got that whole wall. It's like a large glass, these big glass panes and everything. So yeah, I love anything down there in Ann Arbor. Just such a magical area, right? And again, I didn't go to college in Ann Arbor at Michigan. I went to Oakland, but again, when you can go back to a campus like that, even Michigan State, Central, Eastern, all these campuses are special. But to me, it's between Michigan and Michigan State. So anytime you can go to any one of these, the major sports, right? The football field, the ball diamond, and even where these kids play hockey, it's outstanding from two guys like us who are, I'd like to just say, we're students of the game. We're kind of in a way, a little bit like historians too. We've watched all these kids and grown-ups, now play for years and years on end. So you like all the history there. It's almost magical.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I went, I was amazed at all the little chants and cheers they had, and you suck to the goalie, and it's all your fault, it's all your fault. And then, at one time, I think the phone rang in the press box, and the crowd yells, "Hey!" and they're yelling the goalie's name. "It's your mom. She says you stink." It's funny. I got a kick out of that. So that was pretty fun. I remember the first time I went. It's just something if you go to, you just would never forget. But speaking of hockey, Chris, we do have some games in the NHL tonight. I know we got 3. So if you want to give us a little quick rundown, I know we had one cancellation. That Vegas and Edmonton game got canceled, but we still got 3 games. And I know you said before you kind of like these smaller little slates for NHL. I know that. I listened to the other night, and you were talking about Boston and Toronto and how they were going to be so chalky. And you gave us a couple other different options if you want to stack up a line. As a matter of fact, a couple of my buddies actually texted me and said they were rolling with Beastie's lines that you were giving out, and I know worked out pretty well. So go ahead. What do you think about this little 3-gamer here? Anything stand out to you in the NHL DFS circle tonight?
Well, thank you. Well, tell your friends I said thanks. And if your friends are watching right now, thank you. And last night, I went away against the grain. I mean, I caught some heat after the broadcast, and even during the broadcast, about liking the Buffalo Sabres. And guess what? They put up 4 goals. They were one of the most under-owned, teams of the entire slate. And you got 4 goals. You got all these assists here. So I listened to not only, what I have down in my pen, my paper, my statistics, but in a way, having played so long, I'm not trying to be on a soapbox here, but in a way, you kind of got to listen to your gut or your heart. Some folks, when they play DFS or GPPs, whatever it may be, they make a majority, if not all of their money, fading the chalk. I mean, and that was last night. Toronto, they scored 1 goal, and they were like the chalkiest of the chalk. So if you just listen to your gut or your heart, or right here, listen to Woodward Sports, Woodward Bets here, I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm not going to try and tell folks what I think they want to hear. I'm going to tell them what I've learned and what area I'm going. And over the years, I've kind of picked up a little bit of steam in terms of being trusted or looked upon, to give DFS advice here. So let's talk about this slate. 3 games, as you said, I believe. Let me look my notes here on my phone for once. I don't have them written down. What the heck's going on? The Golden Knights, Vegas Golden Knights, and the Oilers are postponed. 2 good teams. Vegas, much more wins than Oilers. You would have never thought that. But tonight, the games that are on the docket here, Arizona is at Colorado, over under of about 6 goals. Anaheim is at Minnesota. That one's at about 5.5 goals. And then the last one, first one, however you want to put it, Dallas at Florida. So the Dallas Stars travel to Florida to take on the Panthers here. So let's look at the Dallas, I keep wanting to say Dallas Cowboys. I'm already in that wild card weekend kind of mode here. But the Dallas Stars are going to Florida to take on the Panthers. The Stars 4-1 their last 4 games out, and the Florida Panthers 4-1 their last 2 games, or last 4 games out. And so when you go down the list of statistical leaders here, Joe Pavelski, this guy's father time, he's been around a while. He leads the Dallas Stars with 15 goals on 78 shots on goal so far this season. On the flip side, Andrei Barkov, 15 goals on only 72 shots on goal so far this season. And then assists, it's Joe Pavelski again, 20 assists. Jonathan Huberdeau for the Florida Panthers, 34 assists. And then when we go down the goaltending here, Jake Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. He's been a nice little not a contrarian play, but he's always been a cheap source of saves and points, at the tail end if you're building big GPPs in multi-entries here. And then Sergei Bobrovsky, he's got 17 wins and a 2.55 goals against average here. So when you look at this team, yes, I think it's going to be highly contested, but I think Florida puts up 4 goals. I think the final in this one, and if anybody wants to write it down, have at it, because again, best bets, you can use this information for that too. I think the Florida Panthers win this one 4-2 on the strength of Florida's second line, per usual. Jonathan Huberdeau, Vincent Trocheck, a little bit of Anthony Duclair, and sometimes Carter Verhaeghe. He goes in between from the first line to the second line. All 3 guys, you're getting power play 1 and power play 2 minutes. And if you're looking for a little, same game kind of action here, look for the Dallas Stars second line. Roope Hintz, I believe he centers the first line, but last I checked, actually this morning, Roope Hintz skated with the second line here. So Roope Hintz and Jason Robertson here. When we go down, I'll speed it up. I know we have a guest here in about 5 minutes or so. Let's look at the Anaheim and Minnesota game. Minnesota's been a nice stacking tool for us throughout the season, and nobody's the wiser here. Their first line has been outstanding for us. And when we go down it's Ryan Hartman, Matt Zuccarello, used to play for the Rangers here, and then Cam Talbot as their goalie. 15 wins. His goals against leaves a little bit desired. He's giving up about 3 goals a game in comparison to the Anaheim Ducks starting goalie tonight, John Gibson, 12 wins so far. And when we look at what lines I like here, you have to go Minnesota 1. As I was saying, Matt Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman is that first line center, and Kevin Fiala. He's got 33 games played. He scored 7 times, 15 assists. So you're looking at Ryan Hartman, Matt Zuccarello. Those 2 are the goal scorers, and then Kevin Fiala will get you the assist there. So look at Minnesota 1 so far in Florida 2. Last game here we have is the Arizona, Coyotes playing the Colorado Avalanche. And I believe I talked about this game a little bit yesterday because it was all in my notes. I was so just chomping at the bit to talk about an 11-game slate here. I gave a little preview unbeknownst to me. So if you hung in there yesterday, you can hang in here today just briefly. Arizona at Colorado, as I said, over-under is at 6 goals in this one. Coyotes, ho-humming along. They're 2-2 their last 4 games, while the Colorado Avalanche, they're 4-1 their last 5. And when you look down the list here, Colorado, they're averaging about 4.5 goals a game here. 4-3, 7-1, 4-3, 5-4, and last time out they lost 4-5. So you can count on the Colorado Avalanche to hang at least 4 goals tonight. I have them scoring 6 times. Yes, I know that's outlandish to kind of preview a game and say I think this team is going to score 6 times, but I think they just absolutely run Arizona out of the Pepsi Center. I believe that's where Colorado plays now, 6-1. So you're going to look at the normal flow of this thing. I believe Nathan McKinnon, first line center, Mikko Rantanen, first line winger, and Gabriel Landeskog, first line winger. All 3 guys first line, all 3 guys on the first power play unit. Those guys on a 3-game slate, again, chalk is okay. Chalk is not always bad. So if you want to get a little bit weird here, play Colorado's second line, Nazem Kadri. You get a little bit of Andre Bobrovsky, and then Sam Girard. He's their stud defenseman, aside from Cal Maker, who is just been unbelievably good. So if you're going to go any direction tonight, I think I would start with Colorado 1, Colorado 2. Just get any and all pieces of Colorado you can tonight, and then kind of mix in, as I said, Florida 2 with Vincent Trocheck at center. And then, as I said, Anaheim and Minnesota. I love Minnesota's first line, Kevin Fiala and Ryan Hartman here. So I have a couple of moves to make here at the end of the broadcast in terms of best bets, but I laid some nice little Easter eggs out for anybody that's watching now. Colorado wins big, stack up the Avalanche.
Man, I was just looking here at this line. Is that for real? Colorado is minus 600. That is has to be the highest line I've ever seen in hockey, Chris. I don't know if I've ever seen a money line minus 600, but hey, this Arizona team did beat that Toronto team the other day in Austin Matthews 2-1. So, yeah, Colorado, the highest scoring offense in NHL up at this point. I think you might be right there. The 6 goals, maybe. Sometimes, Chris, I like to look at the first period. Sometimes you can get over 1.5
That's a good move.
goals. So you just need 2, and sometimes you can hit those there. But Chris, we obviously also have some NBA tonight. I'll run through that here real quick. Obviously, in the NBA, as we always say, keep your ear to the ground. Make sure you're paying attention to who's in and who's out. Some guys we're not sure about tonight: Marcus Smart for the Celtics, Mo Bamba for the Magic. Maybe on the Indiana Pacers, we might be looking at Brogdon. The Suns, we're going to be interested in Cameron Johnson, maybe Wainwright. The Raptors, maybe without Barnes and Trent. Miami might be without Jimmy Butler. Spurs might be without Derek White. The Kings maybe without Holmes and Thompson. Looking at teams that are on back-to-back, the Golden State Warriors. Chris, I don't know if you saw this last night. Golden State was losing at the half to Milwaukee last night, 77-38. I thought that I was watching it on TV, and I thought to myself, is this for real? Is that score right? Like, is this? I mean, is it 57-38? Like, what is going on here? I know Golden State came back a little bit there at the end, but that's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on too, because normally I can tell you Klay Thompson will not be in there tonight. Draymond won't be in there tonight. Wiseman probably won't be in there tonight. Iguodala generally does not play on back-to-backs here, so it looks like Chicago is going to get a decimated, worn-down Warrior team tonight, so that might be something we can look at too. The Memphis Grizzlies are also on a back-to-back here. They were without Steven Adams, but Ja Morant, man, this kid is something else. I mean, he's becoming one of my favorite players to watch here in the NBA here recently. I think this kid has got all the tools. I mean, I've never seen a guy pass with his left hand so well. The guy is just he's just fun to watch. But there's some guys here to mention. You guys might want to look at Christian Wood. Has just been playing really good. I also like Cade Cunningham tonight, our own Cade Cunningham. Hopefully he can continue to keep playing well. I know he did struggle that second half of that back-to-back, which, Chris, I haven't been on with you since, but, man, anytime the Pistons are on a back-to-back, you just got to bet against them. They've been getting absolutely pounded on that back end of a second half of a back-to-back. So something to keep your eyes on there. But as far as the Raptors are going to have some value. Gary Trent Jr., maybe some Scotty Barnes you could look at tonight. But, yeah, LaMelo Ball might be a guy you might want to pay up for. DeJounte Murray is a guy you might want to pay up for tonight. But, yeah, all kinds of, generally we like to say the stars and scrubs here, but not really too much value yet. May open up a little bit more where we can jam in another stud into our lineup. But right now it kind of looks like a balanced type approach. But, yeah, Christian Wood for me is a guy that I'd probably start with right away. And then second one would probably be Cade Cunningham. But again, keep your ears to the ground here, as the NBA is just always tough to keep. You got to keep the news on. You got to follow all the different Twitters. I like to follow all the different beat writers and kind of pay attention that way, and make sure you set your notifications in case something comes out, especially late. I mean, you could get something 5 minutes before, make a quick change, and then you get such an advantage that way. But yeah, so Chris, we got some NFL coming up this weekend here. I'm really excited for these games here this week. I mean, we got a Monday night playoff game. I mean, that has never happened before in the NFL. So I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out. And of course, it's Matt Stafford. So Stafford's going to get that island game Monday night. All the pressure is going to be on number 9. So what are you thinking of this weekend's playoff game so far? Do you think is anything, standing out to you? Is anything here? I know we're going to get our guest to come on here shortly. He'll also talk about some NFL. Russell Brown from Covers One will be joining us here shortly. But Chris, quick little preview of this weekend's games. What do you think?
Yeah, the storylines are just overflowing, but that's always the case with playoff football. And I just went on and on the other day with Beer. I thanked him privately because I just droned on and on and on. I mean, I made a comparison between Ross and Rachel and Friends. I also mentioned Clint Eastwood in a Western movie, a leather jackets and crossblades. I mean, I was out of my mind the other day. But again, when you fast forward to now or even tomorrow, these storylines are still going to be grooving here. I love the idea of the Vegas Raiders, playing in Cincinnati, two kind of teams that as the season started, right, there's no way they'll make the playoffs. And if they do, something must have broke their way. Nothing literally broke Vegas's way this season, and boom, they've scratched and clawed, and here they are. When you look at the Cincinnati Bengals and Burrow and the trio of stud wide receivers here, I believe they're ahead of schedule. I look at Cincinnati, I've said it before, the same way as I do that the Browns or the Jets or even the Lions here. So Cincinnati hosting a playoff game gives me hope here for the Detroit Lions. And then we go down the list, New England at Buffalo. That one is going to be unbelievably cold, colder than we thought, a few days ago. So are we going to get a game where Mac Jones throws the ball, 3 times for 17 yards? It's going to be ground and pound, run, run, run. I could tell you this much, Buffalo will be throwing haymakers, and on the strength of Devin Singletary. Can't believe I just said that, but so is such is life here. And one thing I will say about Pittsburgh at Kansas City, I don't know where it came from. I would imagine the Kansas City social media team, but they posted a photo. It was like a flyer, like you've been cordially invited to Ben Roethlisberger's retirement party. And last time they did that, it was against Tom Brady in New England, and we know what happened after that. He beat them, and then boom, he beat them again in Tampa Bay here. So to me, Kansas City, a little too big for their britches, but they'll back it up. No worries there. Aside from Vegas and Cincinnati, my fave game probably this Monday night one, Arizona at the Rams here. And if you go back through social media here, everybody's just not calling for Stafford's head, but they're saying, guess what? This is the biggest moment of Matt Stafford's career. Finally back in the playoffs with a good competitive team, and he's going to have to play perfect football for not only this game, but the following few games if they want any chance at playing in the Super Bowl. So Matt Stafford is going to have to find a way to kind of cut out all those weird Detroit Lions ties, all those weird ill-advised interceptions that when he throws, that's the Detroit Lions in him. But I got faith in Matt Stafford. I think the Rams win on Monday night.
All right. Well, I think our guest is here ready, excited to bring on Russell Brown here from Covers One here to talk a little bit of NFL with us. Russell, how's it going, my friend? We're glad to have you on the Woodward Bet Show to talk a little bit of NFL. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
We're doing great here. Just excited to talk about some NFL. It's cold as hell here in Michigan, and I know you and I've kind of gone back and forth here, a few times. It sounds like we're neighbors. I mean, I think we're both in the same little school district here.
Down the street, it sounds like, yeah.
Right. Small little world for sure. But Russell, let's just dive right into it here. I know you're involved with the draft. I know you're big in the draft. You're going down to the Senior Bowl, I understand, which I was telling Chris that the Lions will be coaching. So do you want to talk about how big of an advantage that is for a coaching staff to go into the draft to have that type of hands-on ability with all these guys before they're able to draft?
Yeah, it's a big positive. I mean, it wasn't as good a few years ago when they were there with Matt Patricia. I mean, I had a friendly encounter with him, and that was a fun little photo that made its way through Twitter and everything else like that. I mean, he was real friendly, but obviously I don't think they took a single guy from the Senior Bowl that they got to work with in that draft. But I think Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes will be a little bit different. But Mobile is it's a great town. It's a great place to go, have some beers, watch a lot of football, and be around a great group of people. And plus, I mean, you just kind of get starstruck. You get out of a car, and right next to you is Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, or Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. So it's kind of cool being able to interact with these guys, because at the end of the day, like, that's what it's about. They're just dudes like us watching football, and they have the same passion and love as we do. But for the Lions, they're going to get a first-hand opportunity, a front-row look at these guys and get their practice habits and see how they go in between their reps. How do they respond to the coaches that they have? And I like that it's not just going to be, the Dan Campbell show. I like that, Aubrey Pleasant and some of these guys that they have are going to get an opportunity to work with these guys, because realistically, most days during practice, I mean, the head coach doesn't always get to work one-on-one with every single player. They are overlooking so many different things. So these position coaches are going to be the ones coaching these guys up a lot of the time during practice. So it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really beneficial, I think. And I know they're slowly starting to throw out the rosters. I've seen the quarterbacks and receivers so far for the Lions. So that's a real big plus, because I think we can all agree, that first round pick will probably be a defensive lineman. But later in that draft, they can really focus on quarterback and receiver.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the things you had put out on Twitter, and definitely interested in some of the wide receivers you were talking about. Dotson with Penn State, a couple other guys there. I mean, when I watched Penn State, I always thought Dotson was the problem. That
Yeah.
anytime, Michigan or Michigan State matched up, he was the guy that Penn State generally went to. So I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Lions uniform at all. But yeah, definitely. Is there any kind of gems that you might want to bring up that we kind of keep our eye on that you might think maybe some receivers? I know I saw you brought up a few other guys, maybe a quarterback or two that might be somebody that we'd be interested in.
Well, yeah. I mean, we know we've got the second pick, and sure that'll be Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson, whichever one falls to them. Maybe they'll be able to pick one of the two because maybe Evan Neal goes first. But with that second pick that they have in the first round, I'm really curious. Do they try to package some draft picks and move up a little bit in position to get a quarterback? If they do, the three that they're going to work exclusively with are going to be Malik Willis out of Liberty, Sam Howell out of North Carolina, and Bailey Zapp out of Western Kentucky. So I think Zapp could be the guy, that mid-round, third or fourth round pick that maybe they hold off like they did with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they wait, and then they take the quarterback to develop under Jared Goff, which would make sense financially. But so many teams like to get that fifth year with a quarterback, and I think with Malik Willis, if that was available for them in the later part of the first round, he would be the first guy that I would try to take, because I just think Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, those guys will be off the board realistically, and maybe even Sam Howell. But I think there's a chance Malik Willis is there, and he might fall a little bit just like Lamar Jackson did a few years ago. And if he's available, I think you take him, because there's so many things within his game where I think if you give him a competent offensive line, he can take a big step forward as a quarterback. And right now, he just is getting sacked far too much at that college level. He was sacked, I think, the most of any of the Senior Bowl quarterbacks. I think it was like 13.7% of the time, which is insane. Like the average number was around like 5 or 6%. So, I mean, you're talking almost double as far as the average for getting sacked for a quarterback. But beyond that, from a playmaker standpoint, Jalen Tolbert, South Alabama, that would be the one to really circle and pay attention to. Listed at 6'3", 190, former baseball player, has incredible tracking ability. It shows. And I think when you look for the potential of a number one or just a solid number two receiver, I think the Lions will be very intrigued by his skill set. It seemed like he caught everything thrown his way, and he bailed his quarterback, Jake Bentley, quite a bit out of trouble. So I think that there's an opportunity for them to take him. If we're talking where this offense has gone over the last 5-6 weeks, I think Calvin Austin out of Memphis, who they'll get to work with, would be another one to circle. He's just a fun little gadget player. They'll be able to do a lot of different things, and pairing him up with Amon-Ra St. Brown will be, I think, a good thing. And obviously, whatever they decide to do with Josh Reynolds. But ultimately, those would be the two guys. And obviously, I agree with you, Jahan Dotson. He's a playmaker. I think he's a first-round pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him go much sooner than anything we see right now.
Yeah, I man, when the draft comes up, I mean, I'm always like a little kid in a candy store. I love that time of the year. It's just, I mean, typically these drafts are on Thursday night. I bowl on Thursday nights, and it's funny when the Lions pick's ready, everybody in the bowling alley is like watching, and it's just like you get a cheer or you get that, oh, I can remember when they drafted Ebron. I thought the bowling alley was going to flip upside down. Everybody was so mad. But, yeah, it's always fun to when it's draft time. But obviously, we got some big games this weekend here. So what do you think of all these games? I mean, it's well known here, Wildcard Weekend. The underdogs are 15-3. So these last 3 years. So obviously, the underdogs are something you're going to want to look at. But is there any game here? I mean, do you have a for sure win, and do you have an underdog that you think is in good position to win?
Well, I certainly think, San Francisco right now, I think the morning line today, as far as the money line, I think they were like plus 140. I really like them as a potential just money line. I would even take them against the spread at plus 3. I do like the Raiders at plus 6. I think that's a pretty good number. I think that game would be relatively close. I would be surprised if Cincinnati won by more than a touchdown. Just because their defense isn't a world beater. I think Derek Carr can get that offense going. And if Josh Jacobs runs the football like he's shown that he can do, I think the Raiders can keep this game much closer. I would even take the over-under on that. I would take the over. I think it was at 49 or 48.5. I would probably look at that. if you're making any bets on it. But from an upset perspective, I mean, the three that make the most sense would be the Raiders, the 49ers, and then the Cardinals. I mean, we don't know about Matt Stafford. I don't want to dog him because I think we all secretly kind of love Matt Stafford here in Detroit. But I just, playoff game, can he get it done? We'll see. And if it's anything like it was this past weekend with the 49ers, if the Cardinals fans travel, he could have a rough time. So I think the Cardinals, despite not having DeAndre Hopkins, that offense looks different. But I think that, the money line at plus 175 that I saw this morning, I think that'd make a hell of a bet.
I have a quick question for you, if I might. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
When you go to the Senior Bowl, and even what we're talking about now, NFL, I'm always just absolutely enthralled by the process. Do you take notes with a pen and a paper? Obviously, I'm sure you show up to the Senior Bowl with a legal pad and a bunch of paper, but because I know, again, you're going to go there, you have to get all this information out, and aside from just like publicly broadcasting it, and aside maybe even publishing it, how do you log your information? And then in turn, how do you spin that to get it out to folks?
Yeah, so I mean, I spend a lot of the day on Twitter. Obviously with my phone and just having it mobile is a big plus. I take a lot of video. I post a lot of video onto Twitter, and I have a lot of people just retweeting that and all of that. But yes, a lot of note taking on a pen and paper. I bring my backpack with me and pretty much just bring as many pads of paper as I can go. And I write chicken scratch. I mean, I have fairly decent handwriting, but there, just in between reps, I'm always trying. So, you get about 20 seconds in between reps. So I try to get as many notes down in that time frame as possible. But I keep a track with the roster. I keep notes of these guys, and I have, relatively good information on them already. So I kind of write down some of that information just in case, going down there and getting to interview them after practice, I can bring up some of those notes that I previously have on them. So I know what I'm talking about when I interact with them, but really it's just a lot of note taking. That's how I scout players. I'm the old school kind of way. I'll sit there in front of my computer and I write it down in a notebook. I don't know, it helps me concentrate. So that's just really my process when it comes to watching football and stuff like that. Plus, I like to be able to sometimes draw out a play, a formation. It just really helps from the mental aspect of how we see football and how we view it.
Absolutely. And I've only been with Woodward probably a few months now. And I believe, Russell, you benefit from this too. We need to get some like stenographers to follow us around. Just some lady like in a court system, just type in shorthand. I think that's the best way to do it. I'm with you. We just write chicken scratch and we go from there. I appreciate the process. Not everybody, what's strange to me is not everybody is as open and honest as you are in terms of this is what I do and this is how I do it. I mean, pen and paper has been around for so long. So I don't know why people would feel the need to kind of hide that from other folks, because in today's day and age, I'm sure you're aware, especially on social media and Twitter, everybody is just vulturing from each other, and everybody's so weird, and they want to be closed down because they want to be the guy or they want to be the girl that gets the information out. So I appreciate all the hard work you're doing. And again, I'm big into the draft, but I've just mainly concentrated on DFS. But obviously, I would love to get down to a Senior Bowl or something along those lines and just start from scratch, because I'll be honest, I've never scouted a player, whether it was hockey, baseball, or football. And so to learn from you just by like a simple kind of thing, this is what I do, I think would be outstanding, because we all have something in our game, right, that we want to elevate here and bring up. Now, have you ever gotten into DFS, or are you just strictly just NFL draft stuff?
No, I mean, I do my bets every single day. I'm a daily sports bettor. Still a little salty about Alabama losing on Monday nights and stuff like that. And I do the daily fantasy stuff, but sometimes I just kind of stay away from that at times, just because when sports betting became legal here, I got so involved with lines and overs and unders and prop bets and money lines and everything like that I kind of got away from that. But don't get me wrong, I do love a good prop bet. I do, tomorrow and Sunday I'll be paying close attention to passing touchdowns. If I get a quarterback at 1.5 passing touchdowns, I'm taking the over every single time, because it's a passing league, and I just feel like you got to take the over there. It's rare that a quarterback's going to have one passing touchdown unless it's like Mac Jones or something. But it's a lot of it's NFL draft, and I'm always open to sharing information and knowledge because, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without anybody sharing any information. And I'm not like some big time star or anything like that. It's, but I've built up a following, and a lot of it is football and draft. But, I'm a coach at heart. I've been coaching football for 10, 11 years now, and I've always wanted to teach and coach people. So it's, sharing that information is just what I love to do.
Yeah, I will say one thing though, like the NFL for me, I think the NFL to me is like the ultimate sports game of chess. Like I think there's so much involved in that whole NFL, with the sport. I think coaching's really important. I think schemes are important. I mean, you could put some of the best players in the worst schemes and they're not going to perform. So I think,
Right.
this coaching, staff getting this opportunity and Brad Holmes, I'm getting to the point where I thought I'd never say this, but I'm actually satisfied with
Right.
the management the Lions have right now. I'm actually believing that they can pull some gems out of this draft. So when I did hear they had this opportunity, which you mentioned Matt Patricia, when he was there, it was just a disaster. They didn't draft anybody. How can you have an advantage like that? And I've heard other teams say how big of an advantage they had when they pulled out a guy out of the fifth round or something that ended up being a star, how they found him at the Senior Bowl and they worked with him. They liked his work ethic. I just think that is going to be a huge advantage for Brad Holmes here going into this draft. So definitely looking forward to that. But so before that comes in, and before that draft comes up here, we'll definitely have you on once or twice more once we get closer to that. But yeah, really excited for the games this weekend. I don't know. I think Matt Stafford. You guys mentioned something there with Stafford. Did you guys see Kelly Stafford the other day on Twitter complaining
Yeah.
that basically saying that like the Lions fans were good because the fans in LA, she was saying it was like they had to do a silent count on a home game. Like she was befuddled by that. But I mean, you can't cry about it, Kelly. I mean, it's just the way it is. They moved you to a different part of the city in LA. It seems like every game it seemed like the road team was cheering a little bit more than the Rams every time I was watching it. But definitely will be interesting there. But yeah, definitely looking forward to these games here this weekend. All this cold weather and should be really fun. But yeah, definitely excited for that. But is there any prop bets or anything other than the quarterbacks that you were looking at that might be standing out to you? Maybe some tight ends. Maybe it looks like a DFS slate. The tight ends are pretty plentiful this week. I mean, there's lots of ways to
Yeah.
go. I think George Kittle is in a smash spot here against the Cowboys. Cowboys have struggled against the tight end. So I do like some George Kittle this weekend. I think he's a guy I'm going to be looking at some props. But is there any other player maybe standing out that you might be looking at?
Well, I'm really going to pay attention to Devin Singletary, anytime touchdown score. I don't know what he was at as far as odds were. When I last looked, I want to say it was like plus 180. I think that was on DraftKings. I could be wrong there. But then, the other one, and I only say that because he's had 5 touchdowns in 5 straight games. So I think at some point here, he's going to run one in. He could very well catch one in. He's their best running back. But beyond that, I really think that you look at potentially the Buffalo Bills defense scoring a touchdown. I think we could see a pick six. I mean, we're talking a rookie quarterback against the best defense in the NFL when you talk about yards allowed per game, pressure and things like that. So I think Mac Jones as a rookie in his first playoff game, he might be a little nervous on the road and probably a very loud stadium there in Orchard Park for Buffalo. But also Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs plus 140 was anytime touchdown score. I'd really pay attention to that one. I think he could have a big day against J.C. Jackson. A lot of people want to say, Jackson's going to lock him up, and he could. But, last time he played to New England, he had he had 7 receptions on 13 targets for 83 yards and a score. So I do like some of the Bills prop bets. I'm with you on George Kittle. I think he could have himself a day. And even though Stephon Diggs is probably going to be on Deebo Samuel, I'm not too worried about it. He gives up more yardage than any other cornerback in the NFL. Sure, he has a bunch of interceptions, but from a yardage perspective, whatever Deebo Samuel's over-under is on yardage, I would take that. And I'd probably even take him to score as well. So if you want a same-game parlay that with maybe the 49ers to win or even add Kittle into the mix on that, I would definitely do something like that.
Yeah, I love the prop bets, especially some of these single game parlays stuff like that. We got so many options now. It's just
I know.
so fun. We try to kind of help everybody navigate through it sometimes, but it's like a game within a game. You don't have to just bet the overs, the unders, the teams. But a few things that I noticed here. You're talking about rookie quarterbacks. First time in the playoffs, quarterbacks have struggled mightily.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's obviously we have Burrow and Carr playing against each other. Those are two first timers. But other than that, we got Mac Jones, a first timer. I think he may struggle there, as you mentioned, against
Jalen Hurts as well.
Yep, Jalen Hurts is another.
And the weather in that game is going to be bad. It's going to be, I think, like 90% chance of rain. It's only going to be like 60 degrees in Tampa and like 25-mile-per-hour winds. So whatever the total is on that game, might want to look at the under.
Yeah, I will say I did look at Uncle Lenny's touchdown prop here. He's minus 130 to score a touchdown. That's one thing. I think the Bucs are going to rely on Uncle Lenny this round here. I think they've been saving him. I think he's going to come out and he's going to look like Leonard Fournette of old. But, well, Russell, is there anything here you want to add or anything you want to add to the weekend before we get running out of here? We appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit of NFL draft with us, kind of giving us an idea some of the guys the Lions might be looking at here and getting some of your thoughts here on the weekend. But is there anything here you want to add before we get it moving?
Honestly, I mean, not too much. I mean, I appreciate you guys bringing me on, talking a little football. I always love talking football, from draft, NFL, whatever, even on the betting side of things. For anybody doing some betting tonight for the NBA, I will say I do like that Orlando-Charlotte matchup. Charlotte at minus 11. They've kind of been somewhat of a wagon the last 4 or 5 games. So I think they might be able to cover that number, even though Orlando has lost by 7 or less, I think, in those games. But Gary Harris prop bets, I think he's at 13.5. I would take the over there. Whenever I can get a Michigan State Spartan on a prop bet, I'm going to go ahead and take it on the points on the over. But also Chicago minus 3.5. Golden State's going to be out a ton of people. They can't score. Draymond's not playing. And then John Morant, Memphis against Dallas at 10 o'clock tonight on ESPN, over 24.5. So really, that's all I've got for you guys. I appreciate it. It was fun. And I look forward to doing it more with you guys.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for joining us, Russell. We'll have you on again here, especially before the draft comes on. But appreciate you joining us here on the Woodward Bet Show. Thank you.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
All right, Chris, that was kind of cool, getting a little bit of insight about the Lions draft. I mean, we'll have to keep our line there attached to Russell here as this Senior Bowl goes on. He might be able to pull us up some guys, because Chris, we can bet on the NFL draft. So having a guy like Russell in our corner is probably going to be a good thing as it gets closer to the draft, because as we mentioned, there are many ways to bet on the NFL draft. But Chris, before we get out of here, we obviously got to give the people some bets for the night. So what you got for the people?
I got 3, and they're all NHL related, one for each game this evening. So Colorado is hosting the Arizona Coyotes. Over-under is at 6. I love the over here. As I said, I think Colorado can literally carry this one on their own. The final score, 6-1 there, 7 goals. So you take the over. When it comes to Anaheim at the Minnesota Wild here, I love that Minnesota to win 3-1. But hey, it could be 3-2, something along those lines. So in terms of this game, I like taking the Minnesota Wild minus 171. And then when we look at Dallas at Florida, as I said, I think Florida wins this one 4-2. So I like Florida minus the 165. So you're looking at over 6 goals in the Colorado Arizona game, Minnesota minus 171, and Florida minus 165 in this one. And as it stands now, that Florida line is kind of moving. And when I did this, it was yesterday. And as I'm looking at it now, I think you can get Florida like plus 105. So that kind of turns the parlay around a little bit here. So that's what I'm thinking this evening, Beer.
Love it. But for me, I got a couple in the NBA. For one, I am going to roll with the Bulls here against that beat-up Golden State team. We'll be missing a few guys today. I'll take them at home, minus the 3.5. I'm also going to roll with Ja Morant, the new NBA darling here. I'm going to take them at home against Dallas, minus the 2.5. And then one team I love to pick on, that is the Houston Rockets here. This over-under is at 240. That is unbelievable to me. That is really high. But I'm going to roll a Sacramento at home, minus the 5 here in a game that should have all kinds of points being scored. So that will do it here for the Woodward Bet Show. We will be back with you tomorrow on Saturday as we start this NFL weekend here and get into the games. All kinds of exciting stuff going on this weekend, but we appreciate you joining us today, and we will catch you tomorrow.